Good evening, all. I welcome you all for the 7 days International Virtual Faculty Development Program on Research Design and Research Proposal Writing. Now I invite Dr. S. Rama-Devi, Head, Department of English, Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education, to deliver the welcome address. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Good evening, one and all present here. Really happy to meet you all virtually. Always academicians too. We never idle our time. We utilize our time to the maximum. And here again, we are happy to associate. We are all happy in associating with the Kate Comeron Trust for organizing this 1 week international virtual faculty development program on research design and research proposal writing. I would like to welcome one and all present here from Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education. Really a word of gratitude to all our higher authorities for permitting us for this faculty development program. And I extend my welcome to everyone who represent Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association, MIRHA Malaysia, and a warm welcome to members of the Kate Comeron Trust India and Lavender Literary Club India. And obviously, a very, very, very hearty welcome to all attendees of this FDP, be it a scholar, be it an academician, be it a person who is interested in research. Welcome you all, and really happy to have this 7 day journey with you all. And we wish you all the best to take home all knowledge that is shared here in this open forum. Wish you all good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. K. Gurusamy, Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Special Education, Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education, to deliver the inaugural address. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of our Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education Management, our beloved Vice President, sir, and Vice Chancellor, sir, I would like to thank and uh, express my gratitude to the organizers of this fine faculty development program for the people who are involved in research. I would like to remember that last year also the same team conducted a 1 week program on virtual learning. I think the people who attended the program might have enjoyed a lot. So the team of this team is frequently conducting this type of program for the people who are involved in research community is one of the wonderful program, and I would like to thank all the program organizers as well as the people who are involved in organizing this type of program. See, in the pandemic period, it is very, very difficult for us to how to do research. See, all the people may have a lot of knowledge in their particular area, but how to design the research is a tough task. Some research may be covered with collecting data, or something may be the experimental research, and some of them may be survey. We have a lot of ideas, but we may not have how to design our research and how to make our research be a successful one. I think this journey will useful for all the researchers, and it will definitely helpful to the people who are going to involve in research. Once again, I would like to thank all the organizers for inviting me to inaugurate this function, and this program will be a great success. And I request the team would like to conduct this type of more programs to the community of research. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. C. Jodi, Associate Professor, Department of English, Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education, to introduce our chief guest.
My pleasant evening greetings to you all. I am profusely overjoyed to take this opportunity to introduce our chief guest of this session, Dr. Vijay Kumar, Assistant Professor of English, B.S. Abdur Rahman Crescent Institute of Science and Technology, Deemed University, Chennai. He has published articles in Thomson Reuters, Web of Science, and Scopus indexed journals. He got a Springer Best Presentation Award for the research paper titled Treating ADHD Using Blended Pedagogies and award for outstanding contribution as a reviewer for CALL, a Scopus indexed journal. In this session, our chief guest, Dr. Vijay Kumar, is about to enlighten us on how to write a systematic review. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, the session is over to our resource person, Dr. S. Vijay Kumar. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And thank you, ma'am, for that gracious introduction. First of all, I would just like to place on record my thanks to Dr. Joyson for roping me in, and my sincere gratitude and thanks to the Department of English, Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education, and the Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association, the Cape Comorin Trust India, and the Lavender Literary Club. So it's indeed a pleasant moment for me to address on an area which is very close to my heart. And it is so appropriate that this 7-day FDP starts with a meta-analytic design, because I just remember the Dean of Kalasalingam talking about, it just gave a great start about the type of research methodology, say it experimental, quasi-experimental, survey research, qualitative or quantitative. So he just gave an overview of the designs, which is a great start. So regardless of the design you choose, it is always great to start our research with a meta-analytic study or a kind of a systematic analysis or the review of literature. So all research, regardless of the design, starts with a very deep study of the existing literature, of what has been done in the field, of what has not been done, how to document it, what are the empirical methods for documenting your review of literature. So we will be addressing on those aspects on, in this today's talk. So I would say that it is a kind of an all-encompassing approach to begin our research. And apparently, this systematic review gives you a solid foundation for the researcher to actually dig deeper and leverage the resources and to find out what is lacking so that he can build on his research. So in that context, I am glad that my session is scheduled on day 1, because systematic review is actually the foundation for all designs. Having set the context, let me now present to you about systematic analysis, and maybe for around 50 minutes, I'll just make my presentation, and not really a kind of a one-way talk, but I would just like to interact with you, show you a few things, if possible, and ultimately would like to squeeze in some time, request the organizers to squeeze in some time for me, wherein I can take any kind of questions which are pertaining to this particular talk, or generally about research per se. So this is a kind of an outline of my talk, outline of what I am inclining to talk to you today. So let me present my screen and take off from there. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we all know as researchers what a literature review is. But there are different kinds of review. There is something called the literature review. There's something called the scooping review. There is something called the meta-analytic review. There is something called the narrative review. And there is something called the systematic review. So what kind of reviews are usually expected when we communicate to top-notch journals like the Web of Science, or Scopus, or Wiley. So what kind of what kind of analysis, literature review do they expect? So this is what I'm just going to initially talk to you about. So we all know that a literature review provides you the context to the topic and actually shows you that you are familiar with the previous research. And most importantly, if you are redoing what others have done, you will be actually kind of reinventing the wheel. So as far as literature review is concerned, the purpose of the review is to ensure that you have ample knowledge about your field, that you are digging in deeper into the field, you are understanding the subtle nuances of the field, you have explored the multifarious dimensions in the field, you know who are the leading authors in your field, you should know what are the key debates in your field, you should know what are the kind of controversies in the field, you should know what are the agreements and disagreements about your particular field, and then you should know what is the consensus in the literature. So it is a kind of a vast sea, and any kind of literature review, as Newton said, no matter when you do kind of a lot of empirical research, as Sir Isaac Newton, even for a person of his caliber, he made a statement that I feel like a small boy who is standing on the rim of the ocean just collecting a few pebbles. So if it was not possible for a person of Newton's caliber to step into the ocean of knowledge, we too are in the same boat. But we should all make efforts to actually dig deeper into our field. And for every journal editor, the first thing they will see is your references, the quality of your references. I mean, or your references reason, or your references from top-notch journals, or your references pertaining to key authors in the field, or you citing seminal works, or you citing groundbreaking research in your area. So that is called a systematic review. I mean, when you do a systematic review, it helps you to understand what is available in the literature, what is the work that has already been carried out, and what has not been done, what is the research gap, and from there you pick. And the first point I would like to make in this presentation is, ultimately this is what decides the quality of the paper. When it goes to a peer reviewer, being a peer reviewer myself in a couple of Web of Science journals, we see that whenever we come across any research, regardless of the domains, if it is shallow, it's kind of outright rejection. Outright the editor will reject your paper, saying that you have not understood the literature, you have not really understood what is happening in your field. So what is the first thing the researcher will, the reviewer will see? The reviewer will first see your quality of your references. I mean, secondly, he will see the comprehensiveness, the eclecticness, the holistic approach of your, review of literature. So some of the points that I would like to make today is, your review actually set the context for your topic, whether you do a research paper writing or your PhD, research where you write a thesis, or in fact, for that matter, even a kind of a postdoctoral research. Whatever you do, ultimately it all boils down to what you know about your area. So what you are doing is, the moment somebody reads your review of literature, they will know the depth of your knowledge. They will know your scholarship. They will know the familiarity you have with the field. So the point one I am trying to make today is, if you have to demonstrate familiarity with the previous research, it all boils down to the standard of your references. And sometimes people ask in PhD, how many references should be there in my work? Suppose you write a research paper in a Web of Science, how many references should I have? There is no kind of a one size fits all approach to it. And the number of references vary from domain to domain. But if you see any kind of journal in Web of Science, there will be around at least 80 references, where 30% of the references will be recent and 20% of them will be seminal, and predominantly the references will be from top-notch journals. So I will be giving you a cameo in detail about how to identify your right journals to do your review. So this is the first point I'm trying to make. The second point is, whenever you do a kind of review of literature, it shows your review of literature shows that there are gaps in the research, which means researcher A has done this, B has done this, C has done. So many people have done over these years, but this is a niche field. This is something which has not been done in detail. Okay, this is not something previous researchers have not touched upon. So there is really a gap. Hence, this study merits further investigation. And this is actually the starting point of your PhD research or a postdoctoral research or a research paper, where you establish your niche, where you establish your scholarship, where you establish your research acumen. And the way you do that is by showing that these are some of the areas that people have done, but this is one particular area that people have not touched upon. So I am touching upon that particular area in my research work, be it a paper, be it a postdoctoral study, or be it a, a project, or be it, your PhD dissertation or whatever. So this is the cameo shot. And I would just like to start with a metaphor. There's a particular saying in literature, although it may sound like an hackneyed cliche. You might be wondering, what is this Alpha Cat logo? Actually, I am a research consultant in Alpha, a Researchers Academy, and that is why you could see this logo in all my PPTs. So, all right, coming back to the point. See, whenever you do a research, it's like standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay? It's like, there may be a lot of giants in your field, a lot of researchers who have carved a niche for themselves, a lot of researchers who have done groundbreaking research. And a literature review is like standing on their shoulders and seeing the world, seeing your research field, so that you can see better, so that you know what the gaps are. So the essence of my talk today is doing a proper systematic review helps you to stand on the shoulders of giants and look at your field in a better perspective, to look at your field with more depth, to look at your field with more clarity, to look at your field with more scholarship, to look at your field with more depth, where you penetrate into the heart of the issue. So that is why we do a meta-analytic or a systematic review. All right. Now let me show you a graph here. Now I want you to reflect. I have been talking to you for, say, about a few minutes, but now I want you to reflect. Now I am an editor of a journal. I'm a reviewer of a journal. Whenever a paper comes, there is a particular benchmarking. Your paper will either be very high. You can see one high here and one low here. Okay. And there's something called the confidence interval, which the statisticians may be aware of. So your paper will have a very low quality in terms of systematic review, or it will have very high quality in systematic review, generally in review. Now reflect on, I'll give you a situation. Think about your research. Okay. I'm sure that most of you are researchers here who are either carrying your PhD research. Some of you may be doing your postdoc. Some of you may be, esteemed faculty from universities. I'm sure that I'm addressing a very august audience. So regardless of who you are, I'm sure that everybody is a researcher here, and that includes me. So we are all researchers. So let us reflect on it. Think about your recent research article you wrote, okay, that you have communicated. Now, evaluate your review based on whether it is low or whether it is high. Okay. The first thing is narrative. Let me give you an example of what narrative is. Let's say I'm doing a research on cancer. Okay. And I'm saying that, a researcher A has researched on, these particular areas of breast cancer. Researcher B has done this. Researcher C has done this. And this is my view. So what you are doing is you are actually only saying what A has done, what B has done, what C has done, and what D has done. And you are collating everybody's work and presenting it, which most of us do in the initial stages of our research. And this is called as very low kind of reviewing, which we call it as a kind of a narrative review. You only narrate, you only describe what people have done, but you don't have enough leverage to actually show the research gap. So this kind of review is called as a narrative review. You are only quoting different people. You are not presenting your own interpretations. You are not coming with your own conclusions. You are not coming with your own logic. You are not actually kind of deconstructing anything. You are not debunking any existing ideologies. You are not debunking any philosophies that people do in literature-based research. What people do, A has done this, B has done. This is my interpretation. I disagree with the author. So you deconstruct those persons' opinions. If you don't do all that and actually just present your data based on what A has done, what B has done, and what C has done, your review is actually a simple narrative review, which we call as very low on quality. Am I making my point? Am I clear to you? One of you can.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely,
Very
sir.
clear.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your responses. So that is what a narrative review is, because you don't bring in your ideologies. Second type of review is neither low nor high, which we call it as a scooping review. Let's say you just go to a ice cream parlor and you just like to have, there are different flavors like strawberry, vanilla, and or whatever flavor. So you're asking for your vanilla, and you are being given a scoop of it. Although there is so much of creamy layer there, he just takes a scoop and gives you. And this is called as a quick scooping review. See, for example, there may be thousands of research papers in your field, but let's say you randomly pick any 20 because you want to write a quick research paper. You call it as a kind of a scooping review, where it does not encompass all the gaps, but you actually go in for one quick scoop and quote some 20 or 25 papers, which we call it as quick scooping review. But then you may have your criteria or your prerequisites for a scooping review. What I mean is, you may choose work related to, works that are very recent, or you may pick from leading journals in the last 5 years. Those are very good to do. Good reviews to do, because you are not going for old literature. You are going for new literature. You are going for groundbreaking journals. And this is what we call it as a quick scooping review. But however, as the term implies, it's a very quick review. It's a scoping review. It actually does not encompass. It does not give you, it does not entail a very holistic or an eclectic or a multifarious, deep approach to literature. So this is the second category. And the third category is called as rapid evidence assessment. What do you mean by evidence assessment? There are three kinds of designs. One, it is a kind of a qualitative design, which is based on interpretations, and the other is quantitative, which is based on numerical, and the other is actually mixed methods. But in the third type of review, you are looking only at the findings of previous researchers and compiling all the evidences from the previous work, maybe some 20 or 30 work, and showing these are the evidences that are available in literature. And this is my research. Does my evidence agree with those previous evidences, or does it differ? I mean, this kind of research has standard, which we call it as rapid evidence assessment. And actually, if you look at the curve there, right from kind of how it just shoots up the bar, and the last one is called as the full systematic review, where it just goes from a very high caliber.
Sorry, sir, to interrupt you. Can you please
Yes,
explain this third one again?
1 minute, I'll just come to you. Yes,
Can you please explain this third one again, sir?
you mean the fourth one, ma'am? Are you asking for the fourth one?
Third one, sir.
Third one. Okay, I will.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, yeah, the rapid evidence-based assessment is you are not picking studies which are just interpretive. For example, when you read a research paper, you are going to the findings section. Okay, in the findings section, you are reading what that particular researcher has found in his experiment, or in this analysis, or in this interpretation. So all the evidences you are kind of documenting. This is what A says. This is the evidence that what B provides in his research, and C gives this evidence. And I have done my research. My evidence, does it differ from those previous researchers, or is it similar? So that is called as evidence-based studies. Here, you don't just give a descriptive review. You are only picking not what previous authors have said, but what they have found. You know, there is a difference in a narrative review. You are only describing what previous authors have said. But in an evidence-based review, you are reporting what previous authors have found. And there is a difference between describing and explaining what they have found. Am I making myself clear, ma'am?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And the last one is actually kind of a full blast systematic review. So why should we do a systematic review? So moving on, why should we do a systematic review? Right. Now, traditional reviews, most of the researchers give traditional reviews. Traditional reviews actually only reports previous studies. It is not clear how you selected your studies. Let me give you an example. In a traditional review, you will not have an inclusion criteria and an exclusion criteria. Let me explain what I mean. Let me say that I'm doing my research on flipped technologies of learning, or online technologies of learning. Let us say I'm going to do a review. Now, when I do a review, I collect all the studies for the past 10 years. Okay, or I do some random review. This is called as traditional review. But if I am doing a systematic review, there is a difference. I will not choose from every journal. I will choose only from top quality journals in my field. I will choose papers only from Web of Science. I will choose papers only from Scopus database. I will not go to conference papers. I will not quote some national papers. In a systematic review, I will choose papers that have top quality, and that is called as inclusion criteria. So every researcher, when he sits to document his work, whether it is a research paper writing or a PhD thesis, you should have an inclusion criteria. On what basis are you including a particular work? Basis number one, quality of the journal. Basis number two, quality of citations. The basis number three, how recently it was published. For example, let us say that I am talking about new research in cancer, and let us say that.
Sir, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, quality of sorry, sir. Number one and number two. Number one and number two. Quality of journal. Quality of. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Actually, a researcher quality of systematic review is based on the quality of journals that he refers, the journals that he cites in his paper. For example, let us say that I am working on flipped learning. And if my journal is conference papers from national conferences, and if I just make a Google search and pick out all the papers wherever people have reported on flipped learning, that is a traditional review. But it is a systematic review. I have to look for, I will show you, I will show you a sample now, okay, after this particular slide. If it is a systematic review, I will go to leading journals in my field. Now, I will show you one sample, how to do that. Rather than telling you, it will be better if I show you. Now, I have given you something called the journal finder tools. How a researcher should choose quality journals. One sample I will show you. Now, because this question was raised by one researcher, I will show you rather than telling, because showing will give you a better understanding. Now, I'm just going to my okay. There are different slides. If you see, these are the top journals in your field. I have given you. You can copy this and put it in your web browser. Okay. Let us say I am working on flipped learning. This is a Web of Science database. There are more than more than 20 or 30,000 quality journals in this field. Now, on everything under the sun, on every research area, be it science, I am a researcher in educational technology. So I'm going to do a research on flipped learning. So I am typing flipped learning. Okay, and I am searching here. Now, see, I have 226 journals on flipped learning, and if my citations are based on these journals, these are quality journals, quality researchers, highly cited journal from various countries. See, I just typed the word flipped learning, Australian Journal of Adult Learning, and then Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, Electronic Journal of E-Learning. So pedagogy, all these journals will talk about flipped learning, and see, Journal of Emerging Technologies in Learning. So I have given you a lot of leading journals like that. I mean, leading databases like Clariviate, Journal Finder, Journal Suggester, Find My Journal, journ.biosematics.org, and then Flourisha, depending on your, but the first two is more than enough for any kind of researcher. So going back to my slide, actually, I was
Excuse me, sir, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
So are these articles on this journal site, are these open access to all? Or we have to subscribe to them?
No, actually, again, that is a different, there is a different way. I mean, though what I'm saying may not sound logical. See, even if it is a closed access journal, there is a particular site called SciHub, SCIHUB.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you can take that URL and put it in SciHub, you will get the full paper. But as a review of literature, when you do the review of literature, I'm sure all these journals, most of these journals will, I mean, not most, 100% of the journals will abstract. And based on your abstract, they will quote, you will quote. And if you find certain abstract truly appealing, then you will go into the journal homepage. And say about 30% of the journals are open access. But if it is a closed access journal, you should definitely purchase the article, or you can even send a request through the academia or the ResearchGate. I have found this. I have tried this. Whenever it is a closed access, I spot the author and I send an individual request stating that that you will keep the information very confidential and you want your paper exclusively for citing in your research. Will you be kind enough to send your paper? I'm sure most of the authors will do that. So provided you can network with them, there are many ways. But anyway, yeah, but that's a different area to talk about, which is a different dimension altogether. So most of them, around 30% is, open access, but open access journals themselves are actually treasure trove for you to leverage and write ample research of, systematic review. So coming back, so there is no time. There are a lot of journals, but I'm showing you only one cameo, one sample, so you can explore. I will share the slide with the organizers. Of course, the researchers can explore and how he can or she can, leverage all the papers. So having said that, let me just move to the protocol. So if your job is to do a systematic actually review, and when you do a systematic review, have an inclusion criteria, right? An inclusion criteria. For example, my inclusion criteria, I am going to cite journals which have high citations. I am going to pick only journals which are in the last 10 years, because my research are different. There may be 10% of my work where I may refer to seminal authors, and then 10% I may refer to leading books in my field. These are called as inclusion. There is something called the exclusion criteria, which means I am not going to choose these areas. I am not just going to choose national conferences. I am not just going to choose any other proceedings of a conference. So that is what is called as an exclusion criteria. So I hope I'm making my point clear between what you should include and what you should exclude in your systematic review. Am I making my point clear?
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah. Just a minute. I'll be back in a moment. Okay. So it's, I think I just made my point on what to include and what to exclude. So moving on. Yeah. Now these some of the other points that you should consider. Now, a traditional review is usually incomplete. It is not comprehensive. But if you look at a systematic review, that is really comprehensive. And if you look at that important point, the methods in systematic review are really transparent. Let me explain in the later part of my presentation what I actually mean by transparent. Okay, so by the end of my talk today, I'll be making certain aspects very clear to you. So the point one is, what is a systematic review? And then how to extract appropriate data, and how to critically appraise studies, and actually how to synthesize data. Okay, so this is what I have been saying. So let me move on to some of the important aspects, because right now we have understood what the purpose is. We have actually visited certain slides wherein we know the purpose of doing a systematic review. So, and I would suggest that one important point, if you look at the last 2 points in the slide, let me show you those last 2 points. See, usually in Scopus database, there is something called quarrel type. I don't know, I'm sure that some of the researchers will be aware of it. Even when you publish or you refer to journals, there are 4 categories of Scopus journals. Category 1 is called as Q1, quartile 1. Category 2 is called as quartile 2. Category 3 is called Q3, and category 4 is called Q4. And I have given you the link here. Check quartile. You copy that link and paste it in your browser, and always ensure that most of your references are either in Q1 or Q2 if you are going for Scopus. Because this Q4, most of them are paid journals with actually a kind of a low citation index. So I would like to make this point very clear. There are no parameters for Clarivate because it's Web of Science. The journals are always in a database. Most of them are not paid journals. Today there will be one journal. Tomorrow the journal will be pulled out from the list. That doesn't happen in Clarivate. That doesn't happen in Springer. That doesn't happen in Elsevier. But it happens in Scopus. So I have given you the last 2 links, Scopus and Schemago. So whenever you make references for systematic review, ensure that most of your citations are either in Q1 or actually Q2. For example, let me show you that. I think I'll take a minute to show you what I mean by that. So another small sample. I think, if I show, I think I'll be able to drive home the point better. See, this is schematic. Let us say that I would like to publish my paper on computers. I mean, on technology. So I'm typing a name of a journal. So whatever journal you want to publish, whatever journal you want to refer. So check in this first. Computers and education. So before I am doing my literature review, I will go to Google and type, my research is on cancer, leading journals or journals in cancer research. Google will give me in 1 minute, say about 5,000 results or 6,000 results. Now, I should spend some time to find out if those results have quality. Now, I am just typing computers and education and searching this journal. Whether it is in Q3, see, there is computer and education, and it is published in United Kingdom. So I'm just clicking this. Okay, and see the H index of the journal, every detail of the journal I am getting. What about this journal? How often they publish? Is it a monthly journal? What is the rejection rate? What is the acceptance rate? What is the SJR? And this is called a squirrel time. Here, Q1 means it is always be in the list, quality. So Q4 is a very dicey list. It means that people may pull off. So it's always, excuse me, advisable to go in for Q1 or Q2, or perhaps Q3 also is okay. But Q4, not only for referring, but it is a little bit dicey for even publishing it, because you publish your article today and probably tomorrow you will be de-indexed, because this could be a paid journal and they may remove it from the list. So I'm just, likewise, I've given you a lot of links. You can use those links to prepare the quality of your references. So having said that, let me move on to the remaining part of my presentation, because I couldn't just give you a demo of all the aspects of my talk today. So let me just move ahead. So this is one important aspect. All right, now moving on, how to do. So far, I have been focusing on what to do, where to find information, how to cite the quality of your work. But this is a kind of an diagrammatic representation for you to do a systematic review of literature, which means you should start with the background. What does it mean? Background refers to what is your research area, why is it a niche area, why does it merit further investigation, why is it so important to discuss, why is it so fascinating area, why is it so alluring, why do you find it so intriguing. So you need to talk about all those aspects in the background. So essentially, why is the topic important? Why does the topic merit further investigation? All right. And then in your review of literature, you will go on to describe some key studies. I showed you Clariviate. From there, you can pick some key studies. What research has been performed in this particular area? What did you find based on your inclusion criteria? And then you will talk about the specific area you are interested in. Okay. Most importantly, today, the fundamental problem for many researchers is identifying the problem. So the biggest problem is in identifying the problem. So this systematic review will actually help you in identifying the problem. And that is why I said that this day one of this sensational international conference, a collaborative standard international conference, actually starts off with a systematic review. And I would truly appreciate the organizers for scheduling this talk as the first topic, because these people are so thoughtful so trenchant in trying to look at the sequence of the presentations and accommodating this presentation, because it all starts with the foundation. And I actually profoundly thank the organizers for bringing in this topic first, because that is a foundation. So moving on to my, without much digression. So you will be talking then about specific area you are interested in. And then you will talk about your current ideas in the field. How do you arrive at current ideas? Only based on your previous ideas. And this is where I would like to go back to the slide 2. You will have a better view of the world if you stand on the shoulders of the giants. So doing a systematic review will help you to stand on the shoulders of giants. Perhaps if you are doing a review on a conference paper, unfortunately, you are not standing on the shoulders of a giant. I hope I'm making my point clear. Am I?
Yes, doctor, very clear.
Yeah. So pick papers where they are very seminal, and then you formulate your key questions. Now, this is how you do a systematic review. Moving on, this is another method of systematic analysis. For example, let us say that you will discuss broad issues. Again, if you say cancer, there are different type of cancer, and there could be lakhs and lakhs of articles. But my article may talk only about breast cancer. So I will identify articles that only talks about breast cancer. Then I will include articles that only reason. Suppose my topic is on educational technology, and if my topic is on educational technology, if I search educational technology or online technologies for teaching, I may get thousands and thousands of studies. My area is very broad, it is not researchable. But when I am talking about flipped learning at higher education for teaching science, then it is a very narrow topic. So first choose a broad issue. From that broad issue, narrow it down and start your systematic review. So let us say that there are some students of literature here. Let us say that I am choosing poetry. I am choosing poetry for my research. And I'm choosing an author, Robert Frost, or I'm choosing an author, Val Stephens. I am talking about poetic devices in Val Stephens. It is not possible. There are hundreds of poetic devices and research done over a period of 100 years. How is it possible? It's very broad. Let us say that I talk about types of imagery in the poems. That is very narrow. I can still narrow it down by talking about, visual imagery in Robert Frost poems. Okay. So when I say online technologies, broad topic, flipped instruction in online technologies, narrow, more narrow, using flipped instructions to teach science at tertiary level, more narrow. So first take a broad issue, narrow it down, and then write your systematic review and leave out some studies which actually overlap with your research. And this is one fundamental criteria for actually a systematic review. Now, friends, researchers, scholarly people, professors, reflect on this. Whatever review we do we follow these parameters? Okay. Now, if we follow these parameters, definitely the standard of your review will set the benchmark. I'm sure that there are different elements to it. But my objective is not to talk about a research paper, but the importance of systematic review. But that is the first basement. So if your base is very strong, you can build a monumental edifice. The strength of your edifice, the grandeur of the edifice depends upon a very solid foundation, and that solid foundation is apparently your review of a systematic review of literature. Okay. Then ultimately you will go on to analyze your findings. What do I mean by that? You will sit and argue with others, whether you agree with the author, whether you disagree with him, whether these views are different in your context, but that research might have been carried in your country. That research might have been carried out with your small population. What are your areas of disagreement with the author? So reading is like interacting with the text, agreeing with the author, disagreeing with the author, refuting his viewpoints. So do all that, kind of argue, deconstruct his opinions, kind of debunk his ideologies, find out. So it's a kind of a constant argument between you and the previous researchers, and this is what the editor is looking for. And if this is what an international examiner, let's say, your thesis gets a remark from a foreign examiner or from an Indian examiner, and you know that the benchmark is either exemplary or very good or it is average or needs further revision. But all exemplary research work, although there are many parameters, one important parameter is to look at the quality of your systematic analysis. Are you just presenting the previous studies? Or are you deconstructing them? Or are you arguing them? Are you making it broad and making it narrow? Or do you have a set of inclusion criteria? Do you have a set of exclusion criteria? Or are you talking about the implications? So it goes on like that. I think I'm just running out of time. Like I have 10 minutes, so let me run through and actually squeeze in some session for Q&A, which I would be willing to take in as many questions as possible. So due to paucity of time, let me run through my slides very quickly. Okay, so this is the pattern of a systematic review. You first define your research question. You identify search terms, like search terms refers to terms related to your industry. I have given you 10 links there. Open the links in the box. Give the search terms. Please don't use Google for your, I'm sure that many of you know this, but a definite no when you are making a research on Google. Google Scholar is okay. Google Scholar, you can make a search. Go to platforms like Web of Science, Clarivate Analytics, Scopus, Schemago, Wiley, Sage Journals. These journals have a search page. Go and search there. And it is absolutely fine to make your search in Google Scholar, but do not make a Google search. So, this is what I mean by test and refine your search. Your search should be very refined and select relevant databases. I have given you a list of databases on how you can search. And there are beautiful reference management tools. But anyway, reference management tools, actually by the end of this talk, I will give you a particular link with the, in the PPT, researchers can use that link. There is a particular link to a channel called Alpha Researchers Academy, where professors from NIT, from IIT, and you might see a lot of videos will be updated in the coming days about research. So if you are interested, you may visit the channel. And this is a very public one. It is not an individual channel. It's an organization channel. I've just given you the link to Alpha Researchers Academy. You may check it there. There are also some videos on how to do your reference management and things like that. So moving on, I'm just very quickly running through. How much time do I have? May I check with the organizers?
So 10 more minutes, sir.
10 more minutes. All right. Okay. So whatever I have said, I have actually distilled the essence of it in a few slides. Whenever you do a reference, literature review, look at these 3 points. So let me not read the 3 points. Let me just leave the presentation to you and you read. Whenever you do a systematic review, you look at the search methods used. Aim for exhaustive and comprehensive searching. Go back to the links. And when you make a rapid review, when do you make a rapid review? Sometimes you want to write a conference paper. And you will not be spending so much of time to write a conference paper, right? Let's say, you're going to present your paper in an international conference. You're not going to spend months and months for that. Let's say you are writing an article for a Q1 Web of Science journal. Then perhaps you might actually spend, say, about weeks, months to write. So, but when you're writing a conference paper, you can do a rapid review. So please read what a rapid review is. And let me now come to the essence of the argument. The essence of the argument is, let us say you take a paper to do a systematic review. Now all of you have a paper. I do this as an activity in certain workshops. All of you think about a particular paper in your field, okay? Or you can think about your own, your previous research paper. Or if you are a PhD researcher, you can think about your PhD topic. And let us say now you are sitting and doing a systematic review. Question number 1, you will ask, is the topic related to my research? How do we find that? You will look at only the title and the abstract. If the title is very much related to your research, then you will go into the article. Then you will read the abstract. That is point number 1. Ask yourself this question first. Is the topic very much related to my research? Tick that article. That is an inclusion criteria. I am going to read this article. 2, read the abstract. Well, the abstract gives me a very clear view on what the article is. After reading the abstract, I understand this article will be suitable for me. If it is not suitable for you, reject there itself. So, question number 1, is the topic related to your research? Read the title and the abstract. Point number 2, look at your paper. What problem is the paper trying to solve? Okay. And how do you identify that problem? Read the introduction part very quickly. There, the researcher would have spoken about the problems in your area. For example, let's say you are a researcher in educational technology. Then what are some of the issues that are not properly addressed? What are the problems the researcher will have articulated there? So go to the introduction and please read that. Okay, that's the second question you should ask. Third question is, what is the related literature in the area? See, usually people give this kind of suggestions in a doctoral committee meetings. They tell the researcher, your area is too broad. Okay, but if you choose area that is too narrow, you may not have an ample review of literature. So my humble request is, when you do a systematic review, you should choose area that is a fine blend of what is broad and what is narrow. Researchers, please consult with your guide. Whenever you write a research paper, people use these cliches. Choose a topic which is narrow. But when you choose a topic which is very narrow, there is a danger. Your topic should have a fine blend of what constitutes narrowness and what constitutes broadness. So ask yourself this question. Look at the review. Is this particular area that I am doing very broad? No, my research is wrong. Is it too narrow? I may not find ample review. So pick up a fine blend. Point 4. Think about your article. Think about the problems that the previous researcher has addressed and look at his solutions. And from there, you can pick on ideas or scope, and then you can argue all those aspects in your literature review. So this is what you see in a research paper before you do a systematic review. You look at the title, you look at the abstract, you look at the background. The background refers to what are the problems in your area, and then related literature. What is the related literature that is available in the field? Then whenever you do a systematic analysis, you also very quickly say what are the solutions that the author has arrived. That is the difference between a simple paper and a systematic review. Systematic review will talk not only about what the author has said, but you will show the background, you will argue the problems, you will show the solutions, and from there you will build on your research. You will also talk about what are the limitations of that study, what is the scope of that study, what did that author fail to do. You will look at all this, and this is how you need to do your systematic review. And there are frameworks. If you go to Google, there are beautiful frameworks to do a systematic review. And one such framework is called the Prisma framework. If you just go and Google it, they would have given you a template how to do a systematic review, what you need to do is follow the template. And that template is called as PRISMA Guidelines for Systematic Review. PRISME, PRISMA Guidelines. So this is how you actually do a systematic review of literature. So due to lack of time, let me actually wind up one time, and so that I have more questions for discussion. Ultimately, this is what I have so far delivered in my talk. Your systematic review has these 6 steps. The steps are: you will phrase your research question or your research topic. All your evidences will be based on only your narrow topic, and then you will go and select all these topics from quality journals wherein you will have inclusion criteria, and you will extract those characteristics, and then you will assess the quality of the studies and analyze those studies. So that is called as systematic review. So I am only kind of summarizing what I told you here. Have a great search strategy, have an inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria, have a clear data extraction, present your findings, not only summarize, but present your findings based on the arguments with previous authors. So I have shown you one particular paper sample here, Systematic Review in Practice. This is the name of the paper. It's a classic paper which came in a journal called British Journal of Education Technology. Although it is a journal in education and technology, regardless of the domain, whether you belong to a scientific domain or a commerce background or language or linguistics or literature, any particular researcher, if you are going to write a systematic review, you can just go to this link. I have given you, this is the link of the paper. You can, it is from a Wiley journal, and this paper, you can follow the framework of the paper. You will be able to write a clear systematic review. And now I would like to keep the floor open for discussions. And ultimately, if you have further clarifications, I'll be really glad if you can actually key in any of your clarifications to alpha@alphaacademy.com or vijaykumar@crescent.education. If you have any clarifications, you may keep in touch with me. I have also left you my mobile number for any kind of research-based, conferences or webinars or seminars. I would just love to have this kind of interaction with you. And I would like to thank the organizers, because I'm running out of time. I'll stop here, and I will actually be, very much willing to take your questions. And as I said, I will just share the slide with the organizers. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That was an enlightening session.
Yeah. Thank you.
One question in the chat box.
Yeah.
Do you want to describe how the data in a review were collected, validated, and analyzed?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. How a data is collected, how it is validated, and how it is analyzed. Now, may I know the area that the researcher is working on, so that my answer will be more specific? This researcher, which area is the researcher working on?
Gurbakshish, can you please come out with your area?
Okay, it doesn't matter. Then I'll give you a very generic answer. Actually, collection of data very much boils down to what I have been saying so far in terms of quality of the data, which is the inclusion criteria I was talking about. Either your data is from Web of Science or Scopus database or Wiley or Sage or whatever it is. So that is the collection of data. Then how do you validate this data? For data validation, if you are doing a systematic review, there is a procedure. And this procedure is called as PRISMA approach for a systematic review. Or let's say there are different tools of validating. But I would suggest that you look for either the PRISMA approach of validating the data. Just Google PRISMA approach. Or you can either validate the data by using a statistical analysis. What is statistical analysis? You tabulate all your data. That is called validation, wherein all your data, you will show it in an Excel sheet in a kind of a tabular column, wherein you will type the name of your papers and the years adjacent to that and the journal in which it was published. That shows your data is really authentic, which has more validity and authenticity, and it can be replicated. So I hope I have answered this question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And,
Yes, thank you.
now there is another question.
Yeah.
From Professor Dr. Balakrishnan, how to differentiate between masters and PhD students by research when they are doing systematic literary review? What is your viewpoint?
Yes, again, that's kind of really a loaded question. But anyway, that's quite a fascinating question. See, as far as the PG is concerned, not only in terms of systematic review, but also in the kind of a doctoral dissertation, you have certain benchmarks, what we call technically as indices. So the indices or the matrix at a PG level is different, and at a doctoral level it is different. But it is very difficult to get your systematic paper published if you don't have enough experience in writing review papers. So whether the scholar belongs to an MPhil or a PG or a doctoral dissertation, a systematic review has a minimum of at least 200 references and a synthesis of all the references. So that the reviewer will not know whether the person who is communicating the paper is a postgraduate, or although some journals ask for a bio note, the perfect answer for this question is there is a minimum criteria of at least 200 papers, a review of 200 papers when you write a systematic review. So I hope I have answered your question, sir. Thank you for that wonderful question.
And one more question, sir. How important is literature review important for publishing research paper or an article?
Thank you, Balakrishnan, sir, for that compliment. And can you please repeat the question, ma'am? Sorry.
How important is literature review for publishing a research paper or an article?
Absolutely, absolutely important. It actually, makes your paper or breaks your paper. As I said, that's the foundation. See, if you do not know what previous authors have done, if you do not know what is the gap in the literature, if you do not know what are the niche areas that merits deeper investigation, how do you write a research paper? Perhaps you may write a research paper or a research which has already been done in your area. So it is pivotal importance. It is so important that actually makes your paper or breaks your paper. And the quality of your paper or the quality of your thesis all boils down to the standard of your references. So it's absolutely important. Thank you for that question.
Okay, sir. So that was an enlightening session, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
There are again a couple of questions popping out, but I think it would be better we ask them in personal chat or through a mail.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. I
For
would
the
love
next
to
question.
answer all the questions. I would love to answer all the questions, each question in detail. I usually do that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ganeshan, sir. So thank you, everybody. So one point I would like to finally make is any kind of questions that you have, especially for the researchers, I would just like to answer every question in a more nuanced manner. So you can please send in your questions. Weekly, we have a researchers group where we have an informal chat. And if you're interested, I can just send you the links for those chats. You can join the chat and I'll be willing to answer any kind of questions in detail in the research meetings that I have with my scholars. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for the organizers once again. And thank you.